I'm Edwin Watson.
And I'm Evona Watson, and we're the owners of Triple E Realty, and you're watching 3E TV, your #1 resource for real estate in the Indianapolis and surrounding area.
Come join us as we walk through another beautiful house from a new build from another Purdue alum here in Brownsburg, Indiana.
Hey guys, Happy New Year! Welcome to the house. Great to see you.
You too.
Come on in, come on in.
Thank you so much for inviting us over to see the home. It's amazing. You've done an amazing job, as I expected, in doing this. And so first I have to just ask about this table and this light because I love it. What is the story?
So this table was our uncle's, and he found it in a resale shop, and it was a custom-made game table. So he turned it into his dining room table, and when I had the opportunity to ask if it's something that I could receive to pass on his legacy, the family said yes. And so it ended up being my dining room table. We found a light that helped pull everything together. And then I had some custom chairs because our styles were a little bit different for the chairs, but I loved the table. And so it's very special, and it helps bring everything together with the colors that actually you helped me get all put together back in the day when we were getting things set up.
It goes very well. That light is amazing, and it all ties in. So, Ed doesn't really know the full story. I don't always tell him everything that I've got going on with my clients, but kind of share with him I want to move to Indiana, what that process started with, and go from there.
So like a lot of people during the pandemic, my job changed. So I went from traveling all the time and going into the office to 100% remote from like a Friday to a Monday, right? And as you all know, I'm born and raised in Indiana. I'd been living in Chicago and various places through work for almost 20 years. And all of a sudden, the reasons that kept me living in Chicago weren't as important. I didn't get to go see the faces of people that I worked with. Spoiler alert, Chicago is getting more and more expensive, a little bit more and more difficult to navigate some of those, those waters. Mm-hmm. And I really started thinking about moving back to Indiana. So the challenge was I was remote. And so, and the housing market in 2021 it was on the market, off the market in hours. And so actually before I even told my family I was contemplating to move, I got permission from work, like, hey, I really think I'd like to move. And then I called Evona and I said, hey, I really think I'm gonna move back to Indiana, and this is what I'm looking for. So then one day she knew that there was a couple houses in a neighborhood that I liked that were going on the market. And so she made the appointments, and I think I took off a random Wednesday or something, and I came down and started to look at them with her. And I had in my mind what I wanted. I wanted an established neighborhood where I could put my stamp on the house. And then going through these houses with Evona, I realized that's not really what I wanted. What sold it for me that I really needed to look differently was we were leaving one of the houses, and do you remember across the street from the house I really liked the most, the lady, or the family I should say, that lived there, we saw her pull into her garage. The weeds were up over her mailbox. And I said, Evona, does this neighborhood have a HOA? And she said, no. And I was like, oh, I don't think I can look at that. And she said, that's a benefit of looking into new construction. The second house we went to that day, we walked in, I think, no joke, we were 15 feet inside the house. She's like, come on, let's go. And I said, what? And she's like, let's go. And I said, okay, so me, blind faith, we left. And she goes, you couldn't smell it, but underneath that clean smell was a smell of animal that you're never gonna get out unless you rip everything out. Yep. She's like, you really need new construction. And I stopped looking at homes because I trusted her enough to go through the process. I said, okay, well, let's go build a house. And then Evona became my security blanket because I didn't go to any of my like sales meetings or the meetings where you went and picked stuff out without talking to her. Because I never built a house before, and I wanted to make sure that the upgrades that I wanted or the things that I was thinking about, you were really great at telling me, like, don't do that, you can do that cheaper afterwards, or that's a really good investment.
It can be overwhelming, and you know, it's funny, I can do it for my clients faster and easier than I can do it for myself.
Oh.
Like, and he probably could co-sign that, because I take forever to make a decision. Forever. And it's because it's too many options.
Oh, yeah.
And it's overwhelming. But when I'm working with a client, I listen to what you say you want. And then I'm able to just pull that out, or at least give you 2 different options. And so it's easier. I don't know why, but you know, this neighborhood is very special to you because, like you said, your sister lives here, but tell us a little bit about why it's also very special.
So it ended up kind of being our, I don't know, we call it the island, because not only does my sister live here, but 2 of my college roommates live here. And the second one, I recommended her working with you. And I remember her saying to me, probably what a lot of people think, look, I don't know why you need to work with a realtor for new construction. You saved her a ton of money because you helped her present a market study of the value of her house. And so not only did you help me pick out things like which countertops did I really want to upgrade or not, and doors and colors, but because then I recommended you to another one of my college roommates, you were able to look at her new build, her choices with the market, and you were able to be able to right size the price of her new build. And she says to me all the time, I'm so glad you had me work with them, because she wouldn't have been able to put all that together.
Ed, you know, you do a lot with renovations and things like that. Like, how do you help your clients make those decisions and what to add and what not to add, and really being able to talk through being value added or not?
Well, at the end of the day, you really want to make sure that we're giving you what you want. So listening is key. Letting them lay out the things that they want, making sure that obviously with us being able to offer all those type of services, that's kind of separates us from the traditional realtor, since we do property management and renovations. The key is just making sure that we're recommending things to you that's going to bring value. You know, at the end of the day, a lot of people don't think of selling down the road and, you know, I want this, this, and this. So our job is to point out some of those advantages that's going to be bring value to the house when it's time for you to sell again. So number one thing, we want the client to be happy, and then at the end of the day, we want them to add value to their house as well, like you said. So when you went to close or when you got the appraisal, it was already worth more, and that's a great position to be.
And I remember that even though you were involved kind of behind the scenes, I remember I wasn't gonna get a bathtub. And you were like, no, you have to have a bathtub. And I was like, no, we needed a bathroom that had a shower in it for family reasons. And you were like, no, Sarah, for resale down the road, I promise you want a bathtub. And you're like, and you probably don't want it in your basement because it's going to be a pain in the butt to carry it down there. And so I ended up picking the bathroom combo in my master that had the shower tub as separate. And I remember because you were like, no, because you're right. I wasn't thinking about selling because when you're going through building a house and buying it, you definitely aren't thinking about selling it. That's 100% right. And so, I mean, I'm glad I have the bathtub because I actually like it. But I remember you saying, no, for down the road, you definitely want a bathtub.
And sometimes in situations where we've got fluctuations in the market and you're dealing with new construction, you can get to the end of this in your house based on the updates and upgrades is more than what the price that you assigned on the dotted line. And the builder is like, hey, we built this house. And if you don't know any better, you say, okay. I come out of pocket and I just pay the difference. But it's their job to price their upgrades according to the market. And if there is a shift, we need to have a conversation. And they didn't necessarily want to have that conversation. Like they kind of ignored
But you
us.
made them have that conversation.
Ignored us and
Right.
really was like, well, we'll deal with it when we deal with it. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
we will do.
Yeah. The other thing too is, I don't know if you remember, but in my final walkthrough, you came, and I remember you were finding stuff I would have never even thought about looking for, because again, my first time, clearly not your first time, which I think is another big plus about working with someone that you trust.
Good. So now that you're in the home, and what would you share with a person out there that's thinking about new construction? What advice would you give them?
I truly would tell them, even if they've done it before, even if they don't think they need someone, you're gonna work with a builder, whatever the case may be, still find somebody that you trust to help represent you, because it is, like you said, you're looking for different things than we are. I'm really good at my job, right? You're good at your job. I wouldn't tell you how to do your job. You wouldn't want to tell me how to do mine. So if I'm working through the aesthetics and the layout, and you have somebody else that's their expertise to check for walls and lighting and things like that, marry it together. At the end of the day, any money you think you would save by not using a realtor, I would be willing to bet you spend in something else, because of what you said. Something's done wrong. You realize it after the warranty session or whatever you want to talk about, and then you would be like, oh man, I really wish I would have. So I know it looks a lot different than the last time that you all were here. And again, thank you very much for making a super stressful process be less stressful. I very much appreciate it.
You're so welcome, and you are right. It does look different. You did an amazing job with all the decor, and I love that basement, and I'm happy that I was able to make that process stress-free for you. So if you're interested in building a new home, contact Triple E Realty, and we will be here to make your new construction process as stress-free as possible.